less harmful. There are two main types of Mpox, Clade 1 and Clade 2. A previous Mpox public health emergency was declared in 2022. It is the most common in remote villages in the tropical rainforest of Africa. While 96% of Mpox cases are in DR Congo, the disease is spread to many neighboring countries such as Burundi, Kenya, Rwanda and Uganda. Symptoms of Mpox include fever, headache, swelling, back pain and aching muscles. The infection usually clears up on its own and lasts between 14 and 21 days.
Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Preeti Kaur. Coming up in the next 1 hour. US claims mediators had constructive day of discussions as Gaza ceasefire talks extend for another day. British and French foreign ministers to travel to Israel and Palestine to urge de-escalation. Worst fears come true as Sweden reports first case of Mpox strain outside Africa amid global health emergency. Vaccine group Gavi mobilizes $500 million for shots. US, Brazil and Colombia call for fresh elections in Venezuela after international condemnation of last month's disputed presidential polls. Opposition says elections already happened, asks Election Commission to publish tallies. 5 people, including 2 doctors, charged in death of Friends actor Matthew Perry, accused found guilty of supplying Perry with ketamine that caused his death in 2023. ISRO to launch small satellite launch vehicle developmental flight. The vehicle will carry 175 kg Earth observation satellite EOS-08 on board. Ceasefire and hostage talks are going on in Doha as key mediators try and get Israel and Hamas to finally come to an agreement after many failed rounds of talks. There is hope that if they can secure a deal, it could limit or deter a promised Iranian attack on Israel after the assassination of the head of Hamas's political bureau. Sarah Coates has more on this.
According to the White House, Thursday's hostage and ceasefire talks got off to a promising start. They are expected to pick up once again today. Now, while there's no direct presence of Hamas at the table, Qatar has reportedly assured the US that it is being represented, with the Qataris saying that they're really trying to do everything that they can to see a ceasefire come into play. Now, we can tell you that, of course, the CIA director, Bill Burns, as well as Qatar's Prime Minister, Egypt's spy chief, the Israeli delegation led by the Shin Bet, also the Mossad, really trying to get this across the line. Although Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister, he is once again accused of blocking a deal, trying to put extra conditions in that may actually prevent it from happening, although his office says that these are mere necessary clarifications. Now, also in the region, we can tell you that one of Joe Biden's top envoys, that's Amos Hochstein, he was here in Tel Aviv. He's also been in Beirut trying to calm tensions amid this threat of an Iranian attack on Israel, which Tehran is promising for the assassination of the head of Hamas's Politburo, Ismail Haniyeh, which is being blamed on Israel, despite Israel not coming out to claim it. So certainly a very dangerous time in the region. And as for the last few days, what's been happening on the ground is this continued tit-for-tat rocket fire between Israel and Hezbollah in the north, and more demonstrations right around Israel, including here in Tel Aviv, as people demand the immediate release of hostages. In Tel Aviv, I'm Sarah Coates reporting for DD India.
British Foreign Secretary David Lammy and French Foreign Minister Stéphane Séjourné will travel to Israel to push for Gaza ceasefire and a de-escalation in any wider conflict in the Middle East. The leaders will meet Israeli Foreign Minister Israel Katz and the Minister of Strategic Affairs Ron Dermer. The visit comes as a new round of Gaza hostage ceasefire talks was underway in Doha. The visit by the two leaders marks the first UK-France joint visit to Israel in more than 10 years. Britain and France are calling for a diplomatic solution to achieve a ceasefire in Gaza and restore peace along the Israeli-Lebanese border. Israeli military spokesperson Daniel Hagari said on Thursday that the military had eliminated more than 17,000 Palestinian terrorists in Gaza since the start of the conflict. The IDF spokesperson in a press conference said that IDF's significant fighting and achievements harm Hamas's ability to regroup and recover.
Israeli Defense Forces troops continue to fight in Gaza, operating in Rafah, Khan Yunis, the central Gaza Strip, and are striking everywhere. So far, we have eliminated over 17,000 terrorists. As part of the significant field achievements, in the last week, we dismantled approximately 50 underground tunnels in the area of Philadelphia Corridor. We are focused on locating, neutralizing, and destroying underground infrastructure in the area.
Relatives of hostages held in Gaza and hundreds of their supporters rallied on Thursday in Tel Aviv and Haifa to push Israel's leadership towards an agreement that will free the captives in Gaza as a new round of Gaza ceasefire talks was underway in Doha. Taking to the streets in Tel Aviv for a procession dubbed the Last Chance March, protesters demanded that negotiators dispatched to Doha keep going until a deal is sealed. The protesters argued that time is running out for the over 100 hostages in Gaza since being abducted during the October 7th attack.
These days are very, very emotional for us, very hard for us, and we hope that thanks to these talks we get to agreement and everything. They will be back, because otherwise it might be very, very hard to bring them back. And if something happened in the Middle East, more war with Iran and Lebanon and Hezbollah, all the hostages might be neglected at the side. So it might be the last chance to bring them alive, whoever's still alive, and we must push everyone to get to this agreement and bring them back.
I hope that everyone come with clean hands and want to finish this saga, this issue, because we can't wait anymore. It's more than enough. Please take a good decision for Israel and for all the world.
I can really feel that.
All right, from here we'll take you live to Sadev Atal, wherein the Prime Minister is expected to reach in a short while from now. Here we see Prime Minister in attendance with Defence Minister Rajnath Singh along with other BJP leaders at Sadev Atal on the occasion of the former Prime Minister on his death anniversary today. Atal Bihari Vajpayee was born in Gwalior in 1924. He was a key figure in the Bharatiya Janata Party for many years altogether and became the first non-Congress Prime Minister to complete a full term in office.
तुम में उजियाले विश्वास को एक एक दिन दिव्य बनाकर तोहफा दो इतिहास को नई रोशनी की तहरीरें लिख डालो आकाश में उठो बांध लो सारा सूरज अपने बाहुपाश में उठो बांध लो सारा सूरज अपने बाहुपाश में माननीय उपराष्ट्रपति महोदय श्री जगदीप धनखड़ जी का भी आगमन हो चुका है प्रार्थना सभा में। एक अपराजेय वक्ता, एक संवेदनशील कवि और एक विचारवान लेखक के साथ साथ अटल जी बहुत ही अच्छे इंसान भी थे। इंसानियत के थर्मामीटर की सर्वोच्च डिग्री तक उनके हृदय का पारा पहुंचता था। वे जन जन से प्रेम करने वाले जननायक थे। अटल जी का व्यक्तित्व पूनम की चांदनी जैसा मन भावन था। आकाश के सप्तर्षि मंडल को तो आप सभी देखते ही होंगे। वह ध्रुव नक्षत्र की परिक्रमा किया करता है। श्रद्धेय अटल जी भारतीय राजनीति गगन के ध्रुव नक्षत्र बन गए हैं। हम अपना मस्तक आत्मगौरव के साथ तनिक ऊंचा उठाकर देखें। विश्व के गगन मंडल पर हमारी कलित कीर्ति के असंख्य दीपक जल रहे हैं। भावी की अनगिनत घड़ियां हमारी विजय माला की लड़ियां बनने की प्रतीक्षा में मौन खड़ी है। विचारों के अनमोल मोती और किसी के हो ही नहीं सकते, श्रद्धेय अटल जी के। वे मर्यादा पुरुषोत्तम श्री राम की संकल्प शक्ति, भगवान श्री कृष्ण की राजनीतिक कुशलता और आचार्य चाणक्य की दृढ़ निश्चयी बुद्धि के प्रतीक थे। माननीय राष्ट्रपति महोदया यहाँ पर पधार चुकी हैं प्रार्थना सभा में सम्मिलित होने के लिए। श्रीमती द्रौपदी मुर्मू जी, माननीय राष्ट्रपति महोदया, अटल जी ने विश्व की ताकतवर शक्तियों के विरोध के बावजूद तिलेरी से पोखरण में परमाणु बम का सफल परीक्षण कराया। पोखरण ने एक बार फिर सारी दुनिया को झकझोर दिया था। उन्होंने कहा था कि पोखरण में केवल अणु ऊर्जा का ही नहीं, राष्ट्र की ऊर्जा का भी प्रकटीकरण हुआ है। विश्व गगन पर अगणित गौरव के दीपक अब भी जलते हैं। माननीय राष्ट्रपति महोदया, माननीय उपराष्ट्रपति महोदय, माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी अब पुष्पांजलि अर्पित करेंगे। सामने की दर्शक दीर्घा से निवेदन है, कृपया भजनों के उपरांत माननीयों के प्रस्थान करने के बाद ही पुष्पांजलि अर्पित करने के लिए आगे आएं। माननीय राष्ट्रपति महोदया। विश्व गगन पर अगणित गौरव के दीपक अब भी जलते हैं। कोटि कोटि नयनों में स्वर्णिम युग के शत सपने पलते हैं। शत शत आघातों को सहकर जीवित हिंदुस्तान हमारा, जग के मस्तक पर रोली सा शोभित हिंदुस्तान हमारा। माननीय राष्ट्रपति महोदया के द्वारा पुष्पांजलि अर्पित की गई श्रद्धेय अटल जी को। डॉक्टर शिवमंगल सिंह सुमन जी की कविता बोलते हुए श्रद्धेय अटल जी ने कहा था, क्या हार में क्या जीत में किंचित नहीं भयभीत में, कर्तव्य पथ पर जो मिले यह भी सही वह भी सही। अब माननीय उपराष्ट्रपति महोदय पुष्पांजलि अर्पित करेंगे श्रद्धेय अटल जी को। स्वयं श्री शिवमंगल सिंह सुमन ने अटल जी के बारे में कहा था कि ऐसा संवेदनशील कवि जो संघर्षशील योद्धा भी है, चुनौतियां भी देता है और विद्रोह भी करता है। माननीय प्रधानमंत्री श्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी द्वारा पुष्पांजलि अर्पित की जा रही है श्रद्धेय अटल जी को। आज अटल जी हम सबको बहुत याद आ रही हैं। हमेशा से वो हमारे पथ प्रदर्शक रहे हैं। माननीय रक्षा मंत्री जी श्री राजनाथ सिंह जी, लोकसभा अध्यक्ष श्री ओम बिरला जी, माननीय लोकसभा अध्यक्ष जी ने पुष्पांजलि अर्पित की और अब राष्ट्रीय अध्यक्ष माननीय श्री JP नड्डा जी, और अब उपसभापति हरिवंश राय जी, अटल जी के परिवार के सदस्यगण, रिस्पेक्टेड नमिता जी, रिस्पेक्टेड श्री रंजन भट्टाचार्य जी, और सभी गणमान्य NDA के माननीय सदस्यगण, आज हमारे बीच में प्रार्थना सभा में संगीत में श्रद्धांजलि देने के लिए उपस्थित हैं पवनदीप जी। पवनदीप जी टीवी का जाना माना पहचाना नाम, चेहरा और आवाज़ हैं। युवाओं में संगीत की बड़ी लोकप्रिय लहर हैं आप टीवी रियलिटी शोज़ के विजेता हैं। आपकी खासियत है कि आप लिखते भी हैं, गाते भी हैं और कई वाद्य यंत्र बजाते भी हैं। आपने कई एल्बम्स भी बनाए हैं। आप मूलतः उत्तराखंड से हैं। तो आइए सुनते हैं आपके सुर में श्रद्धेय अटल जी को एक संगीतमय श्रद्धांजलि। टीवी का जाना माना नाम, चेहरा, आवाज़, पवनदीप जी।
ओ पालनहारे निर्गुण न्यारे, तुम दे बिन हमरा कौन नहीं। हमरी उलझन सुलझाओ भगवन, तुम रे बिन हमरा कौन नहीं। ओ पालनहारे निर्गुण न्यारे, तुम रे बिन हमरा कौन नहीं। हमरी उलझन सुलझाओ भगवन, तुम रे बिन हमरा कौन नहीं। तुम ही हमका हो संभाले, तुम ही हमरे रखवाले, तुम रे बिन हमरा कौन नहीं। चंदा में तुम ही तो भरे हो चांदनी, सूरज में उजाला तुम्हीं से। ये गगन है मगन, तुम ही तो दिए हो ये सितारे। भगवन ये जीवन तुम ही न सवारोगे तो क्या कोई सवारे। ओ पालनहारे निर्गुण न्यारे, तुम रे बिन हमरा कौन नहीं। हमरी बिन हमरा कौन नहीं, तुमरे बिन हमरा कौन नहीं, तुमरे बिन हमरा कौन नहीं। वैष्णव जन तो तेने कहिए जे, पीड़ पराई जानी रे। वैष्णव जन तो तेने कहिए जे, पीड़ पराई जानी रे। वैष्णव जन तो तेने कहिए जे, पीड़ पराई जानी रे। पर दुख के उपकार करे तोए, पर दुखे उपकार करे तोए, मन अभिमान न आने रे। वैष्णव जन तो तेने कहिए जे, पीड़ पराई जानी रे। सकल लोक मां सहुने वंदे, निंदा न करे के निरे। वाच काच मन निचला रखे, धन धन जननी तेनी रे। वैष्णव जन तो तेने कहिए जे, पीड़ पराई जानी रे। वैष्णव जन तो तेने कहिए जे, पीड़ पराई जानी रे। समदृष्टि ने तृष्णा त्यागी, समदृष्टि ने तृष्णा त्यागी, परि स्त्री जने माता रे। जीवा था के असत्य न बोले, पर धन नभ झले हाथ रे। वैष्णव जन तो तेने कहिए जे, पीड़ पराई जानी रे।
बापू के प्रिय भजन के साथ ही अब ये प्रार्थना सभा समाप्त होती है। सामने के दर्शक गणमान्य जन से निवेदन है दीर्घा में कि कृपया कुछ देर बाद ही पधारें, जब माननीय राष्ट्रपति महोदय, माननीय उपराष्ट्रपति महोदय और माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी प्रस्थान करेंगे। उसके बाद श्रद्धेय अटल जी ने कहा था, स्वप्न देखा था कभी जो आज हर धड़कन में है, स्वप्न देखा था कभी जो आज हर धड़कन में है, एक नया भारत बनाने का इरादा मन में है। एक नया भारत कि जिसमें एक नया विश्वास हो, जिसकी आंखों में चमक हो, एक नया उल्लास हो, एक नया अभिमान अपने देश पर जन जन में है। एक नया भारत बनाने का इरादा मन में है। एक नया संकल्प सा अब तो यहाँ जीवन में है। एक नया भारत बनाने का इरादा मन में है। भूख से भूख जो जड़ से मिटा दे वह उगाना है हमें, प्यास ना बाकी रहे वह जल बहाना है हमें, जो प्रगति से जोड़ दे ऐसी सड़क ही चाहिए, देश सारा गा सके वह गीत गाना है हमें। एक नया संगीत देखो आज तो कण कण में है, एक नया भारत बनाने का इरादा मन में है। तारों की ज्योति अक्षुण्ण होती है। मैं निवेदन करना चाहूँगी सामने की दीर्घा से कि कृपया गणमान्य जन एक एक करके यहाँ पर पधारें। तारों की ज्योति अक्षुण्ण होती है, उसे कोई बुझा नहीं सकता, क्योंकि उसमें स्वयं आभा होती है। वे किसी से प्राप्त रोशनी के मोहताज नहीं होते। श्रद्धेय अटल जी भी भारतीय राजनीति के ऐसे ही सितारे हैं, जो अपनी रोशनी आप थे और उनकी रोशनी राष्ट्र की पथ प्रदर्शक है। विपदाएं आती हैं, आएं, हम ना रुकेंगे, हम ना रुकेंगे। आघातों की क्या चिंता, हम ना झुकेंगे, हम ना झुकेंगे। छुई मुई के पेड़ नहीं जो छूते ही मुरझा जाएं, छुई मुई के पेड़ नहीं जो छूते ही मुरझा जाएं। क्या तड़ित घातों से नभ के ज्योतित तारे बुझ पाएंगे। आइए कवि हृदय श्रद्धेय अटल जी की पुण्यतिथि पर एक कविता इस देश के नाम करें। भीतर जय जयकार हो, ये अटल जी का सपना था। भीतर जय जयकार हो, सरहद पर जय घोष, संकल्पों के सिद्ध में भरे तिरंगा जोश। इतना आगे हम बढ़ें, देखे जगत जहान, सारी दुनिया मिल कहे जय जय हिंदुस्तान, जय जय हिंदुस्तान। भारत माता के इस लाडले सपूत को कोटि कोटि प्रणाम, वंदन और नमन। माननीय राष्ट्रपति महोदया प्रस्थान कर रही हैं। शब्दों के रंगों से रंगी कवि अटल जी की कविताएं। शब्दों के रंगों से रंगी कवि अटल जी की कविताएं सभी संवेदनशील इंसानों की कविताएं हैं।
So these were the live proceedings we're getting for you from Sadaiv Atal, wherein President Draupadi Murmu, Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar and also Prime Minister Narendra Modi paid their tributes and obeisance to former Prime Minister of the country, Atal Bihari Vajpayee. It is his 6th death anniversary today. Up next, we are heading for a short break. You're watching DD India News Hour. But after the break, a 6.3 magnitude earthquake struck off the coast of Taiwan's eastern city of Hualien, second large earthquake to jolt the island in less than a day. Powerful storm typhoon Ampel approaches Japan, expected to strengthen, similar to a Category 4 hurricane. London Zoo to remove Banksy latest artwork for safekeeping, while plans are made for the mural's future.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News Hour. Let's continue getting you more updates. The White House has announced that it will send new security assistance to Ukraine. It comes at a time when Kyiv is continuing its push into the Russian territory. Nick Harper gets us more from Washington.
The Biden administration is keen to push ahead with new security assistance for Ukraine. It continues its push into Russian territory. Kirby, speaking about that to reporters, said that the US had seen Russian units shifting and being redirected to the Kursk region. He said that they had been moved from operations in and around Ukraine and had been sent to the Kursk area. He also spoke about the American-Russian citizen who was sentenced on Thursday by a Russian court to 12 years in prison for donating money to a charity that supports Ukraine. Ksenia Karolina reportedly gave $51 to the organization. She became a US citizen in 2021 and had been living in LA, but during a visit to Russia to see family last year, she was arrested on charges of high treason and accused of raising money for a group that provides weaponry to Ukraine's military. Kirby was asked about it, and he spoke about what he called vindictive cruelty of the Russian government for the length of her sentence. Nick Harper in Washington, reporting for DD India.
Kyiv says it has full control of the strategic Russian town of Sudza in Russia's Kursk region. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky also said on Thursday that a military commander's office is being set up in the town, which had a prior population of around 5,000 people. That's as Ukrainian incursion started over 10 days ago. Russia says its forces had regained control of the settlement of Krapets in the Kursk region. Dasha Chernyshova gets us latest from Moscow.
Russia established a coordinating council for military security in border regions, Russian Defense Minister Andrei Belousov said on Thursday. The goal is to increase the effectiveness of comprehensive support of groups of troops that cover the state border, protect the territory and population of these regions. Belousov also said that the General Staff developed an action plan for protection of the Belgorod region. Early on Thursday, Russia's Emergencies Ministry declared the situation there a federal emergency. And the region's governor, Vyacheslav Gladkov, said that the situation in the border areas of the Belgorod region is extremely tense. He added that the Ukrainian military were still constantly carrying out the shelling. In the meantime, more evacuations have been ongoing, with the authorities in the Kursk region announcing a mandatory evacuation of the entire Klushkovsky district. Russian armed forces say they have restored control over the settlement of Krupets in the Kursk region. The MOD said Ukraine lost some 2,600 military since the start of the incursion. The ministry released videos of the Ukrainian servicemen captured in the Kursk region and the destruction of the Ukrainian military hardware there. Russia also stepped up security in the Kursk region's city of Kurchatov, home to a large nuclear power plant. Dasha Chernyshova reporting in Moscow for DD India.
The U.S. State Department has approved the possible sale of up to 600 Patriot air defense missiles to NATO ally Germany for an estimated cost of $5 billion. Pentagon's Defense Security Cooperation Agency in a statement said the proposed sale of the PAC-3 MSE missiles will support the foreign policy and national security of the United States by improving the security of a NATO ally that is an important force for political and economic stability in Europe. Germany had 36 Patriot air defense units which launched missiles when it was NATO's frontline state during the Cold War. At present, German forces are down to 9 Patriot units after donating 3 to Ukraine since the Russian attack in 2022. Under the new NATO defense plans, Germany will need to quadruple its air defenses to protect infrastructure and military forces in the event of severe tensions or a war. Even after results are out, problems of Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro does not seem to end. Countries one after another are coming out in the open asking for fresh elections in the Latin American country. But interestingly, both Maduro and the opposition are not ready for another poll. The latest in the series to raise question on Maduro is Brazil's President Lula da Silva. He has suggested new elections in presence of international observers as a solution to the stalemate. He also suggested coalition government as one of the solutions.
If we have a result and this result is feasible, we will try to find out the following. Maduro still has 6 months in office. His term only ends in January next year. So he is the president of the republic, regardless of the election. So if he has common sense, he could try to call to the people of Venezuela and perhaps even call new elections, establish criteria for the participation of all candidates.
Within hours, the proposal was supported by US President Joe Biden. Mexico and Colombian president have already asked for the same. However, both Maduro and the opposition leader Maria Corina ruled out the suggestion. She said election has already happened, but she was ready for any mediation and the Election Commission should publish the tally. Maduro, on the other hand, rejected call for new elections and showed no inclination to allow review of the election results. Venezuela's National Assembly unanimously passed a bill allowing the government to more tightly regulate non-governmental organizations. The law was proposed in 2023 by Diosdado Cabello, the ruling Socialist Party's second in command. The law will require NGOs to report whether their donors are Venezuelan or foreign. The passage comes just over 2 weeks after the country's election authority declared President Maduro the winner of the presidential election, despite vote tallies published by the opposition which showed their candidate won a hearty victory. Following the presidential elections, NGOs and bodies such as the United Nations have raised alarm over a wave of repression with over 2,400 arrests and at least 23 deaths. The Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has declared the Mpox outbreak a public health emergency of continental security following an increase in cases of the disease in the Democratic Republic of Congo and other African countries. The declaration enables the health body to lead and coordinate the response to the outbreak. DD India's correspondent Chris Ochamringa has more from Kinshasa.
The African Union's health body sounded the alarm over the Mpox outbreak after the disease spread to several African countries. The viral disease was first reported in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Health officials in the DRC say more than 15,000 people have contracted the disease and over 500 others have died this year. The country's healthcare system has been ravaged by decades of conflict. A new strain of the viral infection that is more contagious and deadly than the one reported globally in 2022 was detected near the DRC border with Burundi and Rwanda earlier this year. More than 100 cases of the strain known as Clade 1b have now been reported in Burundi, Kenya, Rwanda, and Uganda. The World Health Organization has declared the Mpox outbreak a public health emergency of international concern to support the African countries to end the outbreak. The declaration will enable the global health body to mobilize resources and coordinate the response. Mpox is an infectious disease caused by the monkeypox virus. It's transmitted to humans through contact with animals or infected people. International health bodies are working with African countries to provide vaccines and prevent the disease from spreading globally. Chris Ochamringa in Kinshasa, reporting for DD India.
Sweden has confirmed its first case of the viral infection Mpox on Thursday, which was also the first case outside Africa. Now, this comes a day after the WHO declared the disease a global public health emergency for the second time in 2 years. Health and Social Affairs Minister Jacob Forsmed told the press conference that we have one case in Sweden of more grave type of Mpox, the one called Clade 1. Wigsell said the person was infected while staying in a part of Africa and had received care and instructions in line with the health agency's recommendations.
Vi har också nu under det.
We have also had confirmation that we have one case in Sweden of the most serious type of Mpox, the one called Clade 1. This is something we take seriously. At the same time, this is a job that our healthcare and the regional infection prevention agencies can and have worked out routines and systems in order to handle. The Public Health Agency is coordinating the work at a national level and has a close dialogue with the regional infection control units.
Folkhälsomyndigheten samordnar.
In a major development in Friends star Matthew Perry's death case nearly a year ago, 2 doctors and 3 others, including a personal assistant to the actor, have been charged with supplying with ketamine, the powerful sedative that caused his overdose death. Each defendant played a role in falsely prescribing, selling or injecting the ketamine that led to the actor's death. Now, according to the authorities, one of the accused, Jasween Sangha, also known as the Ketamine Queen, sold the doses that killed Perry from her stash house in North Hollywood, while the other accused, Salvador Plasencia, distributed it to Perry and his personal assistant, Kenneth Iwamaza. Authorities also said that Plasencia obtained ketamine from Dr. Mark Chavez, whereas the 5th person charged was Eric Fleming, who admitted to obtaining ketamine from Ketamine Queen and distributing 50 vials to Perry's personal assistant. London Zoo announced on Wednesday that it will remove the recent animal-themed artwork by British street artist Banksy on Friday. The piece will be removed from the main entrance for safekeeping, while plans are made for the mural's future. Banksy revealed his 9th animal-themed artwork in London on Tuesday of a gorilla lifting a sheet to release a seal and birds on the shutters of the capital's zoo. You're watching DD India News Hour. We're heading for a short break, but after the break, Delhi Medical Association joins Indian Medical Association's nationwide strike on August 17th. All emergency services also shut. Monsoon mayhem continues. IMD issues warnings for several states. Orange alert for Wayanad. Amrit Udyan at Rashtrapati Bhavan in India's national capital to open for public from today. Welcome back after the break. You're watching the India News Hour. In more international updates, a 6.3 magnitude earthquake struck off the coast of Taiwan's eastern city of Hualien on Friday. Despite the intensity, there were no immediate reports of damage. This is the second large quake to jolt the island in less than a day. Weather officials have warned of the risk of landslides in mountainous areas following days of rain. Taiwan lies near the junction of 2 tectonic plates and is prone to earthquakes. In April, Hualien was hit by the biggest earthquake to affect Taiwan in at least 25 years. 9 people were killed and more than 900 were injured. Typhoon Ampil is approaching Japan. The powerful storm is expected to bring heavy rains, strong winds and the threat of floods and landslides to eastern Japan, including Tokyo on Friday. The powerful storm had maximum sustained winds of 104 miles per hour. equivalent to those of a Category 2 hurricane on Thursday evening. This was according to the U.S. Navy's Joint Typhoon Warning Center. By Friday, Ample's winds are expected to strengthen, similar in strength to a Category 4 hurricane. Typhoon Ample barreled towards Tokyo on Thursday. That brought heavy rains, forcing the cancellation of hundreds of flights and trains in and around Tokyo. Ample was also expected to dump up to 7.8 inches of rain in Tokyo, the capital, and the surrounding area over a 24-hour period, bringing risks of landslides and flooding. DD India's William Denslow joins us from Hong Kong. William, good morning. Now, we tell our viewers that powerful storm Ampel is expected to be a Category 4 storm. Let us get more. What more can you add to it? We've told our viewers about how heavy rains are expected to hit Tokyo.
Well, absolutely. According to the Japanese Meteorological Agency, they say that this is a very strong typhoon. They say it's on par at the moment to a Category 2 hurricane. They are urging residents in impacted areas to be vigilant of strong winds, rain and strong waves as well. It's estimated that in some regions, including the Japanese region of Kanto, there could be around 300 millimeters of rain to fall in a 24-hour period. Also, a warning that wind gusts could broach over 130 miles per hour. So even though this typhoon isn't expected to make landfall, there are serious concerns for some members of the public in impacted areas. That is why we're already seeing travel companies making precautions, trying to really stave off those threats, especially from the high winds and rains that are expected over the next couple of days. You mentioned airlines. Well, according to Japan Airlines, nearly 200 domestic flights have already been cancelled for Friday. Over 30 international flights. ANA, another airline, have cancelled over 200 flights, and some bullet train services have been suspended too.
All right, so that was about the disruption in the daily life. What is the Meteorological Department of Japan predicting? We know that, the situation will be tense in the next few days as Tokyo will be hit by heavy rains. But then for how long do we expect the spell of this storm to exist?
Well, this typhoon is moving currently at around 20 kilometers per hour. It isn't expected to make landfall, which is certainly welcome news for residents across Japan. That, according to the Japanese Meteorological Agency. However, they are bracing for heavy rains to hit parts of Japan on Friday through the weekend, as well as it makes its way up the east coast. Of course, important to remember as well, this comes just days after Tropical Storm Maria battered parts of northern Japan with over 300 millimeters of rain falling in some parts in just a 24-hour period. So this comes as part of Japan already experiencing huge deluges, high levels of rainfall. However, there is some bright news for residents across Japan. Authorities have dropped a warning when it comes to a mega quake. This after earlier this month, a 7.1 magnitude earthquake was recorded off the Japanese coast, prompting fears there could be more significant seismic activity in the future. Now, authorities say that the risk is by no means over. However, they are telling people that they can return back to their normal routines.
All right, William, we'll leave it here. Thank you so much for joining in with those details. Tracking other news now, the Deputy Secretary of State for Management and Resources, Richard R. Verma, will lead U.S. delegation to Nepal and India to advance and support a prosperous, secure and resilient future for both the countries. During his visit to India from August 17th, Deputy Secretary Verma will meet with senior government officials, climate leaders and aerospace academics and industry representatives. In order to boost the US-India partnership further, discussions will be held on a range of issues including economic development, clean energy and climate action and STEM education. He will be joined in India by Senior Advisor of the President for International Climate Policy, Jean Podesta, and Deputy Secretary of the US Department of Energy, David Turk. While in Nepal, the delegation will meet with senior government officials, development professionals and business leaders to discuss shared priorities in economic development, women empowerment, energy and people-to-people ties. Let's get to weather updates now. The Indian Meteorological Department, in its latest forecast, issued a rain warning for multiple states for this week, including Delhi, Kerala, Odisha, Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand. The weather agency predicted light to moderate rainfall accompanied by thunderstorms that will continue in Delhi and NCR regions till August 21st. The IMD also predicted heavy rainfall in parts of Kerala and sounded an orange alert in 2 districts, Wayanad and Kozhikode, on Friday. Also, yellow alerts have been issued for the remaining 12 districts of Kerala. Due to a cyclonic circulation over the southeast Arabian Sea and South Kerala coast, warning has been issued against venturing into the sea for fishing activities in Kerala, Lakshadweep, Karnataka coastal region till August 19th, citing chances of strong winds and bad weather conditions. In northwest India, the Met Department has predicted heavy rainfall over Jammu and Kashmir and West Rajasthan till Saturday. As far as West and Central India are concerned, heavy to very heavy rainfall is likely in parts of Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh during the week. Amid the ongoing protest in Kolkata over the rape and murder of a trainee doctor at RG Kar Medical College, Delhi Medical Association has decided to join the Indian Medical Association's nationwide strike on August 17th, starting at 6 a.m. IST for 24 hours. All clinics, nursing homes will be closed. Diagnostic centers will also remain closed, including emergency services. The Resident Doctors Association across Delhi will be holding a joint protest march on August 16th in the national capital from 2 p.m. IST. On Thursday, some people posing as protesters entered the hospital, vandalizing the emergency department, nursing station and medicine store, while also damaging CCTV cameras and ransacking a stage where junior doctors had been demonstrating since August 9th. Further, as part of the investigation, several suspects to the incident were taken to the CBI office for interrogation, including the newly appointed principal of RG Kar Medical College on Thursday. Summer annuals of the iconic Amrit Udyan will open for public on Friday at Rashtrapati Bhavan or the President's House in India's national capital. Visitors can witness the aesthetic garden till September 15th of this year. The garden, now expanded to cover 15 acres, will be a landscaping marvel showcasing coleus, celosia, tuberose and many other rare seasonal flowers in full glory. The key attraction will be the beautiful new setups. The city of Dibrugarh has recently built a new office of the Indian Medical Association. The Assam state branch of IMA was constituted after independence in the year 1948. The newly built office celebrated the Independence Day for the first time this year. DD India's correspondent Subina Roy talks to IMA Dibrugarh unit members on their plans to serve the people of Assam.
Today, on the occasion of Independence Day, the IMA, the Indian Medical Association, has newly constructed its building for the first time in Dibrugarh. And its establishment in Assam is quite old, as long as the Independence Day, as it was established in 1948. So we have with us the members of Indian Medical Association and renowned doctors. We would like to know what can we expect, like the people of Dibrugarh can expect more from medical services.
We have a dream to do something for the people of the Assam, people of the Dibrugarh, people of the who needs the treatment. You see, we have a plan to start on the OPD, basically in the at least once in a week, to dose the person who needs the treatment. Because because you probably know that Dibrugarh is called just like the Medi Hub. Because all the health facility, most of the health facilities are available here, even though some people are deprived from the health facilities. And we, Indian Medical Association, are bound to keep some treatment, at least in a cheaper rate as well as in the free of cost we want to give.
Indian Medical Association is going forward with this new building, with the new noble concept of having OPDs for every week. With this, we move one leap forward towards Viksit Bharat for the year 2047 with camera person Shantanu Subina Roy, DD India.
Times Square of New York City celebrated India's 78th Independence Day. The event was a colorful and spirited affair. Times Square, known for its bright lights and global significance, was adorned with the colors of Indian flag, that is saffron, white and green, as large digital billboards displayed messages of well wishes to India on the significant day. The event showcased India's rich cultural heritage with performances featuring traditional Indian music, dance and attire, creating an atmosphere of festivity and joy. A quick break ahead, but after the break on DD India News Hour, Japanese stocks head for best week in 4 years as receding growth fears lift the markets. ISRO to launch EOS-8 satellite using its recently built SSLV-D3 in a short while from now.
The World Wildlife Organization tells us that over 3 billion people across the globe rely on seafood. There are efforts being made to preserve our marine ecosystem. So let's dive right in.
The course of the river was getting shrinked in the upstream areas. And when there is no freshwater flow, the river Ichamoti only survives in the downstream areas, and it has become, in our terminology, we call it a tidal inlet.
Habitat from so many places in the world, and people didn't even know that it had happened.
Mussels that live at the bottom of the lake have this large effect on the biology of the entire lake.
So this is the poster that we provide to people on our fish walks. So they can just look at this and identify which are the fish in season, and when we give them the test to go out and identify sustainable fish.
It's worrying because rising temperatures cause the water to expand, and with it, the sea level to rise.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News Hour. Let's get you all the action from the global markets now. Asia shares were headed for a weekly gain on Friday, and Japan's benchmark Nikkei was poised for its best week in over 4 years as upbeat risk sentiment spilled over from Wall Street, while the dollar and US Treasury yields held broadly steady. Last week's market turmoil was replaced by calmer conditions this week after a raft of US economic data allayed recession fears in the world's largest economy and pushed back against expectations for aggressive US rate cuts. Strong US retail sales data and low weekly jobless claims were the latest shot in the arm for the positive risk mood following a benign inflation report earlier this week that reaffirmed bets for imminent Fed rate cuts, but likely at a measured pace. Let's get you updates from the world of sports now. The Premier League kicks off this weekend, bringing new rules and fresh faces as teams gear up for an action-packed season ahead. The 2024-25 English Premier League begins this week, where the league's defending champions Manchester City and other top-flight teams begin their 38-week battle for the title. To get things underway, Manchester United host Fulham on Friday and Ipswich host Liverpool on Saturday. The most eye-catching game takes place on Sunday as Manchester City goes ahead with a head-to-head contest with Chelsea. Birmingham Phoenix secure eliminator spot after beating Manchester Originals in a rain-affected game. Phoenix thrashed Originals in a game that was reduced to 30 balls per side after rain played a spoilt sport at Edgbaston. Also, Originals managed to put only 41 runs on the board, which was effortlessly chased by Phoenix with 9 wickets in hand and 8 balls to spare. Captain Moeen Ali finished the game with a 6 to set up an eliminator encounter with Southern Brave in Saturday's eliminator. Jack Draper stunned Stefanos Tsitsipas in a 3-set thriller at Cincinnati Open. The British number one clinched the last 3 sets to secure a gutsy victory over Stefanos. Also, Tsitsipas served for the match at 5-4 in the third set. However, Draper secured 12 of the last 17 points to claim a remarkable 3-6, 6-4, 7-5 win and reach the third round. Draper shared that despite a tough first hour, his determination and grit drove him to a hard-fought victory. He said that he's proud of his win and even applauded Stefanos for his effort. Ajax beat Panathinaikos in the Europa League third qualifier round after a penalty shootout that went on for an astonishing 25 minutes. On Thursday, after a grueling penalty shootout, the Dutch giants Ajax emerged victorious 13-12, with both teams taking 17 penalty attempts each. Ajax goalkeeper Remco Pasveer turned out to be the hero as he saved 5 penalties and scored 1 himself. This fascinating event has set a UEFA competition record with a total of 34 penalties. The previous longest shootout happened in 2007 European Under-21 Championship final when the Netherlands beat England 13-12 after 32 attempts. BCCI has rejected International Cricket Council's offer to host Women's T20 World Cup this year, in case there is change of venue due to the political turmoil in Bangladesh. The Women's T20 World Cup is scheduled to be played in Bangladesh in September-October this year. The ICC is now exploring potential options to relocate the tournament if the situation in the host country continues to remain volatile. BCCI Secretary Jay Shah said that he turned down the ICC's offer to host the tournament. 10 teams are to participate in the tournament, which will be divided equally into 2 groups of 5 teams each. Indian athletes who took part at the Paris Olympics 2024 attended the Independence Day celebrations at the Red Fort in New Delhi. The athletes included Indian men hockey team who bagged consecutive bronze medal at the Olympics. Double bronze medalist shooter Manu Bhaker was also present at the Independence Day celebrations in the national capital. After Independence Day celebrations, Prime Minister Narendra Modi met the Indian Olympic contingent at his residence. Over 117 Indian athletes took part in the Paris Olympics. India bagged 6 medals with 1 silver and 5 bronze medals. Prime Minister Modi said that every player who went to Paris is a champion. The government will continue to support sports and ensure that top quality sporting infrastructure is built. India won 6 medals at the Paris Games. A day after India celebrated its 78th Independence Day, the country's space agency ISRO will launch Earth Observation Satellite 8 during its recently built small satellite launch vehicle SSLV-D3. EOS-8, constructed on the Microsat MS-1 bus, has a mission duration of 1 year. Weighing approximately 175.5 kilograms and producing about 420 watt of power, the satellite will be launched using the SSLV-D3 IBL-358 launch vehicle. The satellite carries 3 key payloads. According to the space agency, the main goals of the EOS-8 satellite mission are to design and develop a microsatellite, creating payload sensors that are compatible with the microsatellite bus, and incorporate new technologies that will be needed for operational satellites in the near future. Since SSLV is an affordable launch vehicle, it would increase the number of ISRO's commercial launches and aid India in gaining a larger market share in the space launch services industry worldwide, which was valued at $14.9 billion in 2023 and is projected to expand at a 14.6% compound annual growth rate from 2024 to 2030. An important day for ISRO and for the nation. ISRO will be launching Earth Observation Satellite 8 using its recently built Small Satellite Launch Vehicle SSLV-D3. The countdown has already begun for SSLV developmental flight, that is EOS-08 mission. ISRO started the 6.5-hour countdown leading to the launch, which will happen in a short while from now. The main objectives of ISRO's SSLV-D3 EOS-8 mission